Hi there, I'm Miss Haley with the Huntsville-Madison County Public Library, and today I am going to show you how to paint a simple acrylic painting in color blocks. This is what we are painting today. It is super easy, and I think you guys are really going to like it. So what you will need for this craft is a paintbrush with a flat head. I've got a wide flat head that is about 3/4 of an inch wide. It doesn't super matter. You just want a wider head rather than a pointy brush. You need some washi tape or some other kind of tape. It does not have to be washi tape. I am using a washi tape that I just don't like. It came in a set and I don't like it at all, so I never use it for other crafts. Washi tape though can be a little expensive, so I understand if you don't want to use that. You can also use painter's tape or scotch tape, whatever you have on hand. I wouldn't use duct tape though. That's a bit wide for this. So my washi tape here is 3/8 of an inch wide, and the width of your tape doesn't super matter, but you do need to keep it in mind because if you look, let me bring our sample back, at our sample, the washi tape is the width of our white lines. So the wider your tape, the more white that you will have on your canvas, and that if that matters to you, you'll want to keep that in mind. You need something to use for a painter's palette. I am using a paper plate. They are super duper handy for this, but you can also use other things. You could use a regular plate that you wash off afterwards. I definitely recommend washing it quickly or using a plate nobody cares about if you're doing that. You can use a piece of plexiglass. A lot of things can be turned into a painter's palette, but you'll need something to use for that today. You will need an 8 by 10 inch canvas. Really, you could do this with any size canvas, so if you have a bigger or smaller canvas on hand, that is perfectly fine. It just won't be the same size as mine, and that is okay. But you need a canvas panel, and I'm using the panel kind rather than a stretched canvas. You could also use a stretched canvas. Again, this is a very forgiving craft. It does not really matter what you're using for that. I got this canvas panel at Walmart in their craft section. You can order it online for pickup. And I believe it came in a pack of 3, but this is an 8 by 10 inch canvas panel. You will also need a cup that you don't care about, or that you don't mind anyway that it gets paint on. I actually quite like this cup. That's why it is my painter's cup. But you'll need a cup of water. I fill it about half full so that if I spill it, it's not a huge deal, and you can set that aside. You will also need some acrylic paints. I use Apple Barrel brand. Ooh, that's hard to say. And you get this at Walmart. Surprise, surprise. In their craft section, you can order it online. I did check before I filmed this video today that you could order this online. I know most people probably don't have acrylic paints just sitting around your house unless you're already a painter or crafter. So you need white paint. This is a huge container of white paint, truly a barrel. You do not need one this big. I use this at the library. We use a lot of paint. We use white paint especially a lot, so I have a huge one. But you can get a more normal size like one of these. So the colors, I'll walk you through the colors I'm using today. And you do not have to use these same colors. You do not have to use the same brand of acrylic paint. If you have acrylic paints at home, you can use those in whatever color you want to make your color blocks. This is just what I'm using today, and I'm going to walk you through in case you want to duplicate what I'm doing. So this is Apple Barrel Paint in Key West. Purple Pansy. Now this purple pansy is a little darker of a purple than I actually want to use really, which is why I have my white paint today. If you have a lighter purple than this one, like a medium purple color, I think they have one in Petunia that's pretty good. You could use that instead and you wouldn't need the white. Lavender Sachet, which is a very pale purple color. Tropic Orange. This is a sort of coral pink orange color. Pumpkin Orange. Red Apple, you can tell I've used this guy a lot. And Cameo Pink. These are the colors that I will be using today to make my color block painting. Now mine was kind of a sunset theme, and I'm just going to try to recreate that. It will not be exact. because my paint lines and my tape lines were pretty random when I made this. So to start, you're going to take your canvas and you're going to take your tape and you're going to start laying down tape lines. Now it's very important when you lay down your tape lines that you go from edge to edge or from tape line to edge. And you're going to peel it off, cut it off, tear it, however you want to do. And you're going to fold those tails over the edge of your canvas. But it's pretty important to get a clean, continuous line that you go from one point to another point without breaking in between. And I'm going to press that down really, really well. We don't want paint going under our painter's tape or our washi tape in this case. That is our white line. You can always go back over that with white. The wonderful thing about acrylics is you can paint over them once they're dry. But for our purposes, we're going to use that. So now I'm going to make my tape. You can see my tape has this weird tail on it. I'm going to just tear that a little straighter because that's going to mess it up if I use that. I'm actually going to go from tape line now to edge. So I'm going to put my tape line down overlapping. You guys can see how it's overlapping there. I'm going to trail that tape all the way to the edge. You want to go over the edge again. If you mess up, if you say you stopped right here and you have like a little triangle showing, that's fine. You just peel that tape right up and do it again. You can even reuse that piece somewhere else. So you're going to tape random lines. They can be kind of whatever you want. I always overthink this part, you guys. We're going to go from here to this edge. Again, making sure that I'm overlapping my tape here, pressing down really well, and then folding that over the edge. And then I like that. I'm very picky about my lines, you guys. This could take me a while. And that's okay if it takes you a while too. You are allowed to be picky on your paintings. Alright. And you just keep using your tape to make lines. You don't want a bazillion of these. But you do want a decent number. Let me count actually. I had about 10 spaces to paint on mine, on my original one. I don't know if I'll wind up with exactly that on this one, but we'll try to get close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. These a couple more. So keep making your tape lines. Again, make sure it overlaps here. You don't want any canvas showing through under where your tape is supposed to be. You want a smooth and continuous line there. And if you guys look, you can kind of tell right here where there's a shadow. That tape's not stuck down well. So again, always make sure you're smoothing over your tape. And I'm probably rocking my camera horribly while I do that. I'm sorry. We'll put one right there. And I think that's probably good enough for me. You can have as many tape lines as you want, or as few as you want. It does not super matter. You just want a couple. So once I'm done, I like to go over all of these one more time with my fingers, just smoothing them down, because again, it's just really not a place we want to get paint under. But I'm sure I will at some point, and I'll be able to show you guys how to fix that, because it always happens, and that's okay. So now to start, what you're going to do is put your cup somewhere comfortable. Go ahead and put your paintbrush in your cup. You want your paintbrush to be wet pretty much at all times, but not soaking wet. You just don't want that paint drying on there. It's bad for your brush. And so keeping your brush damp when you are not using it is just a good habit to be in. So when I am not using my paintbrush, it is going to be in my paint cup. And I'm going to set this aside for a second and show you guys what I'm going to do with my paint. So I'm going to start with, oh no, this one's not open. That is going to be a problem. These guys are notoriously hard to open. I have the hardest time, but you can peel that off and get it open. So I'm going to start with a little bit of my purple pansy, and I don't need a ton. Oh, always make sure you guys shake your paints. I'm not going to do that on screen because it'll rock my camera really bad, but you want to shake your paints up. These paints are not necessarily always mixed if they've been sitting for a while, and you can get some really runny, gross looking paint on your palette if you are not super careful. So I'm going to put a little purple pansy on there. You do not need a ton of paint for these, you guys. Start with small amounts because that way you will not waste it. Once your canvas is painted and once you're done with this paint palette, you can't really keep it. Sometimes you can wrap it up in saran wrap, but that's not always something you can do. It will dry out eventually. So I'm opening my white up right now, and it has dried up a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just gonna get crumblies everywhere. Ew. I'm gonna pour a little bit of white paint next to that so that I can get that color a little more pale. I don't want that color that dark right now. I might use the dark color later with some red, but not right now. I'm going to clean my spot off. I don't want these crumblies getting in my paint. This isn't going to be textural. So then I'm just going to get a little bit of each of my paint colors. If I remember, I'm going to shake them up. Really, you should shake your paints up, guys. And I'm getting just what I think I will need to start. I might need more, but you can always get more. The only time you really want to put more than you think you might need is if you're mixing a color, just to make sure you have plenty of the color you're mixing. Otherwise, you'll have to mix it again and try to color match it, and that can be very, very difficult if you're not used to having to do that. So, otherwise, just small amounts of paint will do the trick. You can always get more, but you can't take it away. And there's no rhyme or reason to the order I'm putting these on my palette. They're just going, I don't know if you can hear that, but that red is really liquidy. I'm not so sure about this one, you guys. We'll put that in the middle in case it bleeds everywhere. That's not too bad. Okay, it just sounded really horrible. So there's my paint palette. You guys can see it. And that is what I'm going to be working with today. I'm going to set that aside. And we're going to be doing a little color blending today. If you guys look, I'll bring my original back. The colors are somewhat blended into each other, like especially right here is a particularly good one. It's got purple blended in with that Key West. Blending is a little hard. It's not perfect on this one. You guys can tell this one didn't turn out very good. And I suspect that's because I was using a glossy paint with matte. But you don't have to blend just because I'm blending. I'm going to show you how. And I'm probably going to do a couple that are solid as well. So you guys do whatever you want and what you are comfortable with and what you think looks good, because art is about your imagination and your taste. So it's what you want to do with it. We are going to start, I think, with this one. Do a little blending. So I'm going to get my brush I'm actually going to move this, you guys, over here so that I don't drip water all over my canvas. You don't really want to get water on there. I'm going to get the water off of it, and I'm actually going to get some water off just onto my paper. Make sure you guys have covered your table. I meant to mention that beforehand, but you definitely want to cover your table before you start painting. I'm using butcher paper. You could also use like a paper bag that you unfold, newspaper, junk mail, whatever you have on hand. Just do something to cover your table. Acrylic paint can come off. You can scrub it off, but that might not be good for your surface. So I'm starting with a little bit of the Key West on my paintbrush, and I'm going to put it right here. Your painting probably looks a lot different than mine, so you put whatever color wherever you want it. But I'm starting out with Key West, and I'm planning to blend this with some purple. So I'm going to get it most of the way up. I'm going to leave the tip of this done. Now, if you don't want brush strokes, I recommend starting on the tape and going to the tape, and you will avoid getting like a little brush lift mark. If you're seeing white through your canvas, that's okay. You can always come back with another coat later. I'm going to get some of that paint off, and I'm going to rinse my brush between colors. You want to rinse your brush, just jab it down in there. You don't have to be super rough with it, but you also don't have to be super gentle. You want to get that off. And again, wipe it on the edge and then wipe it over here so that you're not getting water in your paint. If you get, I know you want your brush damp, but if you get a really wet brush in your paint, you're going to have watery paint and it's not going to go well for you. So I'm going to get a little purple on my brush. That is the Lavender Sachet. And I'm going to start up here and paint that area. And then I'm going to start bringing it into the blue. I don't want to come back too much because the blue is going to be wet. I'm just using a really rough stroke to bring it through. You guys can see I went over my tape line here. This will be an entirely different color, but that is okay because this is going to dry and I will paint right over it. Acrylics are wonderful that way. You can paint just right over things. They're very, very forgiving. So I think that's good. I'm going to rinse my brush again, and I'm going to come back in with a dry brush without any color on it to kind of blend that a little bit more. I think I went too far down. I don't know. I kind of like that. You can wipe that off. I'm going to come in with a little bit more Key West on my brush and adjust that bottom since I think I blended it down too far. There we go. And that's how you blend. It takes some practice. If you guys are doing this for the very, very first time, I know it can be frustrating when it doesn't look exactly like mine. Just keep in mind I've been doing this for a very long time. And the more you practice it, the better you will get at it. If you hate it, say you blended your two colors there and maybe you picked two colors that didn't blend well together. Maybe you just don't like it. Maybe you feel like you didn't blend it well. You can let that dry and you can paint right over it. So if you don't like this one, just paint over it later. We'll just leave that alone to let it dry. Now I'm not going to do this one next because I do have some wet paint right there. I'm going to let that dry. So I'm going to move to a different one. Not one adjacent to this, but maybe this one. And I think I'm going to paint, actually I'm going to do this one here. And I'm going to paint it, I'm going to paint it pink. So I'm going to use a little bit of my Cameo Pink. And if you guys notice when I'm getting the pink on there, I'm just kind of dipping in here. I'm not moving it around a lot on my plate. I did over there, but that's where I wiped off. You don't want to move it all over your plate because then you're painting your plate and not your canvas. And so you've wasted some paint. We really try not to do that. So I'm going to go in with a little bit of my Cameo Pink. And I'm actually going to blend in a different direction on this one. I like to go in all different directions when I'm doing this painting. So I like to move in whatever direction I think that particular block of color should move in. I'm going to come to right about there with my pink. Make sure I get my edge. I do like to paint my edges. You do not have to. It depends on what you're planning to do with your canvas. I tend to just prop mine up somewhere, and so the edges are very visible, but you don't have to do that. It's up to you. I think this one's going to be pink too, so I'm actually going to take the leftover pink on my brush. I have a lot on my brush right now, and I'm going to wipe it on this corner here just to use it up. Don't want to waste that. And blend it down. That is not how that one's going to stay. There's a lot of white showing through on there, and I'll pick that up and show you what I mean when I say white showing through. You guys can see on there, the white of the canvas is really showing through on that guy. And you'll just come back over with another coat. In my case, I'm going to come back in with another coat and probably another color. But now I'm going to rinse my brush, wipe my brush, get all the water off. Don't forget to get the water off your brush, you guys. That's so, so important. And now I'm going to come in with the Tropic Orange. And you guys can see on here, this is the real orange, the pumpkin orange. That's the Tropic Orange. It's somewhere between these two colors, which is why I like it. I'm just going to get a little on my brush. And again, I'm not spreading it around on the canvas, on the palette a lot. And, ooh, you know, that's a lot of it on my brush. I don't need that much. Oops. I'm going to wipe a little off. There we go. And I'm going to paint this side of it. Make sure I get my canvas side like that. And I'm going to start bringing it down into the pink. You want to make sure that when you're working on a section, a color block section, that you are not, need a little bit more there, maybe I didn't have too much, that you are not working on it dry. So this one, I'm going to have to add more pink when I want to blend those two. If I choose to, I might just do that one all pink, because this will be dry by the time I get back to it. And if it's dry, it's not going to blend. You're just going to have lines, hard lines. And that can be okay too. You might like that. But there. Okay, so that's about as much as I want on there. I'm going to wipe this on my canvas, or my palette, in case I want it later. And I'm going to rinse my brush. Switch hands here so I'm not blocking you. And wipe it down. Ew, gross, I got some white crusty on it. And I'm going to come back in now with a dry brush over here. You guys don't have to switch hands. I'm just doing that so you guys can see. And I'm going to wipe any excess I'm pulling off onto my paper. I don't want that on there. Just going to smooth it over. Now I've got some white showing through right here, and I don't want that. So I'm going to come back in with just a little bit of that Tropic Orange on my brush to fill that in a little bit. I don't have a ton on my brush, just a bit. And I think I blended too much at the top, so I'm going to get a little bit more Tropic Orange and just come through like that. And then rinse my brush. So when I'm doing my blending on my color block, I know I mentioned I don't like to go all in the same direction, so I didn't blend this way like I did on this one. I tend to go just with what I feel that direction would be, so I kind of followed my tape line direction in this one, but it's entirely up to you guys. This one I followed the point. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So I think I'm going to paint this one all pink. I might change my mind later, but I'm going to go ahead and come in with a little bit more of the Cameo Pink here and paint that out so that it's fully covered. I might change my mind later when I add more colors onto this, but right now we're going to see what that looks like just with one color on the block. So now I am going to I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I think I'm going to come this one. This one's between these two. So I want, I think, for my taste, it does not have to be my taste, I want something between these two colors. So I'm going to do pink, the cameo pink, and I think I'm going to come in with maybe a little purple. I could also do blue. I think I'll do purple though. I think purple will blend a little bit better with the pink. They share some color in there. They're adjacent rather than closer to being opposite. Whereas blue and pink, I might get mud. Okay, so I'm going to come in with some pink. And I'm going to do it at this angle. I think I'm going to go completely opposite of this shape. I'm definitely going to need more pink on here, you guys. Ooh, I'm not sure I like this. I think I want this more purple than I have pink. Now I'm going to mix together my dark purple and my white real quick. So when you're mixing paint together on your palette, you want to just mix it inward. So you're going to pull them in, mix, mix, mix. But you want to try to keep it in that space, because if you mix all around it to the outside, you're going to wind up spreading your paint out on your palette, and you're going to wind up with less paint to use. I'm just going to mix that down. I used a lot of white with a little bit of that purple pansy. If you are mixing at home, you want kind of this medium purple color. It's a little bit darker than my lavender sachet, but it's not super dark. It's kind of a medium purple in between there. And I'm going to mix it until there aren't any swirls. I did have to mix outward a little bit. And I'm going to use this right here. Like that. I need to move quicker. I'm taking too long to think, because if I take this long to think, you guys, my pink is going to dry. I'm going to try to wipe. I had a lot of excess on my brush. I'm going to try to wipe that down. I'm actually doing 3 colors here. I'm not super thrilled with the pink right there. I think that's too much pink on my canvas right now. I'm going to come in with some lavender sachet. I'm going to bring that right over top of the pink a little bit. And I'm going to start blending it to either side. You can flip your brush over if you get some darker color on there. I'm going to bring it up into that darker purple color. I'm going to bring it down into the pink. What I'm doing now, I was smoothing that out. I had a clear line of paint there from my paintbrush edge, and so I just smoothed that out a little bit. I'm not going to come back over with a dry brush on that. I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out. I like the depth of the purple there. So now it's time for a little orange. I am probably not going to leave that all pink, I think. I think I have too much pink on my canvas. So we're going to come in with a little bit of the dark or orange. That's my pumpkin orange. We're going to come in up here. Ooh, that is very bright orange. We are definitely going to be going over that guy a couple of times. He's thin and very bright. I'm not sure how I feel about that. And that's kind of how painting is, you guys. You have to just play with it and test it out and see what you like. I'm going to go about halfway down with that. I'm going to rinse my brush off completely, get all the color off of there, wipe it down, and I'm going to come in with some Tropic Orange. So some Tropic Orange. And I'm going to start down at the bottom. You guys can tell I'm painting right over that purple that went over the line. And I'm going to make sure I get my edge. Ooh, I've probably neglected my side edge. That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to come down and we're going to start getting up into that orange. I'm going to go pretty far up because that is a super bright orange, you guys. That is more orange than I maybe wanted on there. Okay. So like that. I will probably come in with another layer. Let me pick this up and get it closer to you guys of the Tropic Orange later. If you guys can look right here, my purple that went over the line is still showing through a little bit, and I think I'll need another layer to just truly cover that, and that is okay. So we're going to keep going. I'm going to blend that up that way. We're going to paint right over that pink, so you guys are going to get a good example of painting over pink or any color. Ooh, it's not quite dry. We'll wait. So I think we're going to do some red purple up here. Some of my deep red with this purple. And so I'm going to take just a little bit of red on my paintbrush. I'm going to come in right here. And I like the apple red because it's not really or the red apple, excuse me. It's not really a fire engine red. There's a little bit more pink tone to it, and I really like it. And this is also kind of thin, even though I wiped my brush off. I don't think it's my brush. I think it's just the paint is a little thin, so that might need another coat. But that's okay. I'm going to come pretty far down with that. I'm just going over it to make sure I don't have weird brush marks. I'm going all the way over past the edge. That'll help with getting brush marks. When you lift off, you tend to leave one. Like if I just do that, I've left a little mark right there. So going all the way to the edge is really helpful. And starting on the edge of the tape is also helpful in avoiding those. This is very thin paint though, so it's really prone to brush marks. I might just have to have brush marks on my canvas, you guys. That's okay. I'm going to come even a little further down. I really want to blend the purple and the red on this one. I like that red color. So, get our brush nice and dry. This is another reason I like to cover my table is I don't have to waste a paper towel right now. Paper towels are hard to find. I don't even know if I have any. And so just drying on the paper is really handy to be able to do. So I'm going to get a little bit of that purple color that I mixed. I'm going to come in right over here with that. Right there. Flip it over because I got a little red on my brush and I want to go back over my purple and I have some clumps. Ew, get off my canvas. We're going to start coming into the red. This guy, like that. Now that is really not blended, but I am going to go ahead and wipe my brush off and rinse it because I need a dry brush to blend that out. These two colors, sometimes you'll find two colors that don't want to mix as much, and you've got to just kind of force it with a dry brush a little bit more, like that. I'm going to rinse again. If you pick up some of your darker color while you're trying to blend with a dry brush, just rinse it off and come back in there. And I've actually wiped a little color off, so I'm going to come back in with some purple. going to come back in with some red. You guys probably can't see that at all. There we go. It's a really distinct line. I'm not liking that. Alright, sometimes you gotta know where to stop. That is not working out for me. I'm gonna come back in with a little purple once that's dried a little bit. There we go. That's better. Okay, there's definitely going to be brush marks there. That is some thinner paint. I could go back over that again later if I want, but I don't know that I want to. That was pretty hard to blend there. So maybe don't do purple and red. Okay. I think that guy's ready. So we're going to do red and orange here. Red and orange definitely blend well together. And I think we're going to start with red. I think it's going to be the more overpowering color. And so we're going to start with red and blend the orange up. So I'm going to put red right here. I might come in at this angle actually. Okay. Rinse my brush off, and I'm going to come in with some of the pumpkin orange, that super bright orange. And what I'm basically doing is I'm taking some of this color and blending them there so that it will create a connection between those two. It won't be so disjointed. You don't have to do that though. If you like it a little bit more disjointed, that's cool. That can be a really good effect as well. So you don't have to do it that way. Get some orange. I'm trying to be careful not to pick up too much red yet. The red, like I said, is going to overpower it a little bit. So I'm always going to move towards the red with this orange and not towards the orange. So I'm going to rinse my brush. I don't want to pull the red down into that orange right now. So we're going to get more orange. Again, start over here. Bring it through. Blend that out a little bit more. Very light strokes that I'm doing. Like that. And I'm going to go in with a dry brush now. But not too heavily because I don't want to... These are thinner paints than I'm likely to do what I did up here when I wasn't expecting it yet and actually just wipe the paint off and wind up with white canvas showing through. And I don't want that. I don't want white canvas showing through. So we're going to do that. Maybe a little more orange. There we go. I like that. I have actually, if you're really struggling with blending with a brush and having a hard time with that, ooh, I just wiped all that paint right off. See? Bad, Haley. You can actually use your fingers. I have done blending with fingers, and sometimes that is just easier. You have a little bit more control of what you're doing. Your fingertips are just a little bit softer than a brush. There's not any hard lines, and you can just kind of smooth them through. You might need a couple extra coats as you're blending. You might have to blend out one and then do the exact same thing again. But I have 100% finger painted in order to blend. It is not just for little kids there. So I think I am missing quite a bit of the blue color. I think I'm going to use blue over here. Yep, I think that's what I'm going to do. A little bit of blue. And my blue, I'm going to need more. So this is when you can come back in with a little bit more. Mine's gotten a little dry. There's just not going to be enough there for this big of a spot. So I'm going to take the blue on my brush. And I'm going to do most of this block, I think, in blue. I like this color a lot. This is the Key West color. And I don't have a lot of it on my canvas right now, so we're going to let it come to the center. All of my paints are a smidge thin today, you guys. I'm not sure why. They're not usually quite this thin. But I'm going to maybe even need to get a little bit more. You don't want to slop your paint on there so that you have just this thick mass of paint. It will take forever to dry. If you're going for texture, sometimes you want to do that, but you just, not on this kind of painting. And similarly, you also just don't want to go too thin. If you go really, really thin on there, you're going to wind up seeing a lot of that white canvas come through. And that's not a good look. Sometimes you might like that, but not here. And I'm taking this all the way to the tip. I'm doing a lot of blue there. And I'm rinsing my brush. I'm going to go in with a little bit of lavender sachet because I want to touch up the point of this because I 100% see some white canvas showing through right there. I'm just going to touch that up real quick. I did not go all the way down. I don't want to mess up my blending. And I'm going to come in. Actually, I'm not going to bother rinsing my brush, but I am going to get a little of that darker purple on my brush. I'm going to come in with that at the tip. I'm going to start bringing it down into the blue. And I'm going to wipe my brush and get some lavender sachet. I'm going to bring that down on top of there. And just bring that down into the blue. And keep moving it until I'm happy with it. Might take me a while. I'm just dry wiping my brush between these because I'm not wanting to wipe all the color off. I'm not really wanting to get it wetter. Come in with the dry brush. Alright, so like that. Maybe I want a little bit more lavender down in there. We're just going to come back down a little further into the blue with that lavender. And I think I've got too hard of a line. If you guys look right here, there's a really distinct line between the blue and where I've blended the lavender in. So I'm going to rinse my brush, dry it off, come back in with a little bit more of the blue to soften that edge right there a little bit. Just bring that up. And there we go. I think that's a nice soft blend. Okay. Not sure what I want to do on this side. I think I might want a little bit more tropic orange. So I'm going to come in with the tropic orange now. And I'm going to take it along this edge. Is that still on the camera? Let me scooch that guy a little bit. I'm going to bring it right here. That is super thin. I might not have dried my brush off as much as I should have. That's why you need to dry your brush. I'm going to bring that right there. We're going to come back in with a little bit of orange to kind of echo that. Maybe even a little red. I might do red. See what that looks like. I like to play with my paint a lot and just kind of experiment and see what happens. I'm going to go back in with another layer of Tropic Orange. That is really light layer there. I want that a lot of it darker. And I can go back in over it too when it is dry and get a better effect, but I think this will work for now just for blending that out. And ew, I have a chunk on my, ugh. If you get a chunk on your canvas, just use the corner of your brush to kind of pick it up and then take it off your brush. You don't want chunks on your canvas unless you're going for a texture, which we are not doing today. So now I'm going to take a little bit of red, and I mean a little bit. I'm going to come in on the edge of my painting. A little bit more. You can see how thin that red is probably. There's a lot of white, especially right in here, showing through. I'm not a fan of that. But that's okay. We can go back over with more. This is really watery. Maybe I should have been worried when I heard it shake that way. We're going to come in like that. I'm going to go in with a drier brush, which is, because this is so watery, it is going to wipe some of it off and the white's going to show through, but that is okay because I am going to go back over this with some Tropic Orange. And I wanted to get rid of that line there. So we're going to let that dry. This is going to be one that I come back through and just blend it again with the same colors because that is not working too well for me. Okay. I have 2 spots left. I have a lot of colors. I haven't done... Still think I need more blue. So I'm going to come in with, I'm going to get a little bit more, come in with that Key West again, and I'm going to come in on this one. That reminds me, I still need to go back over that one spot. I'm just going to paint that whole thing, that Key West blue. I'm going to tip a little bit of purple into it. Maybe a little pink. I don't know that pink would end well though, but we'll try it. I can paint over it if it's awful. I'm going to do the Cameo Pink, which I also don't have a ton of. I think I'll do that one in Cameo Pink. I thought I had too much at first, and now look at me. I corrected in the wrong direction. I'm going to come in with that Cameo Pink. And then I'm going to brush right there. Got too much of a line. There we go. So that is the pink and the Key West blue. I'm going to bring in some more pink right here next to that one. And we're going to rinse our brush. Sorry guys, I know I moved my brush thing out of the way. I'm concerned about that ring there. Hopefully it doesn't bleed all the way through. Maybe I should do 2 layers of paper next time. I'm messy. I like making messes. We're going to come in with a little bit of the lavender sachet, which is that paler lavender color here at the tip. Just blend that down. And I'm going to dry my brush off, but not lose the color, and just smooth that little line there. Smooth it away. There we go. And what I just did, that one brush I did, I got a little bit more Cameo Pink on my dry brush and just smudged it over that line to get rid of it. So I'm definitely going to come back in over this one with more of the Cameo Pink, or I'm sorry, not Cameo Pink, the Tropic Orange, and more of that red. It's a little faint, and I want it more to match the sky, because it's very bright over here, and then it's very blue-purple over here. And I don't want to correct too far in that direction. So we're going to get some Cameo, or some, I keep calling it Cameo. It is Tropic Orange. Need a little bit more than what I've got. Squirt a tiny bit out. That one's almost empty. And come back and do another layer over this side of the painting. I'm really going to get it on there, y'all. This is very thin. I don't want it to be that thin. So I'm really going to slather that on. I'm going to go right over that red. I'm going to come back in with it, but the white of the canvas is very much showing through right there, and I don't want it to do that. Actually, I'm going to bring in a little orange. We'll bring the red back too, but I'm going to bring in a little orange right there. I really want it to be as vibrant as the other side and balance that side of the canvas out a little bit more. So I'm going to come in with some of the pumpkin orange. I'm going to bring it to the edge and blend that in, dry my brush off, get a little of the Tropic Orange on there, and brush that out. Now I have a bit of an edge of paint right there. That is going to be okay. That is on my tape line, so I'm not going to worry about blending that. And now I'm going to come in with a little bit of red, just a tiny, tiny smidgen of red on my brush. We're going to come in right from this side, just right down here. I'm going to blend that in. I'm going to dry my brush off. Really good. I'm even going to use my fingers a little to get more water off of it. And brush over that so there's a smooth line, like that. I'm also going to come back in over this and correct that a little bit. You can really see, let me pick this guy up from a spot where I'm not going to ruin it. It's easier said than done right now. Oh no, I am stuck. I painted myself down. So if you guys look here, there's some really strong brush marks and you can see the white of the canvas through it. Don't like that. I'm gonna come back in with red, right on over that. I'm gonna try to stick to the side so I don't mess up my blending too badly. I'm a liar. I'm going to come right into that blending. Ignore me. Ignore me entirely, you guys. Get some of that purple on my brush. So this video is running a little long, you guys, so I went ahead and skipped to the end. And you're going to want to peel up your tape. So you'll flip your canvas over and you'll peel up all the little tape edges there all around, and then flip it back, and very, very gently you are going to peel up your tape line. So set it down and peel up your tape lines. Make sure you don't have any paint on your hands when you're doing this, and make sure that your tape doesn't touch your canvas. You'll have a lot of paint on there. It might not be completely dry, and you could wind up with a smudge on your canvas. So try not to do that. What you'll be left with is, get this where you guys can see it, is this. And you can see some of my edges, a lot of my edges actually are not very clean. So what you do is you get your white paint And you're going to dip your brush, just the very edge, into that white paint. And you guys are going to come in along this line. You want to be very careful. I'm going to move this a little bit so I can get in there. But you're just going to come in along that edge like this and clean it up. You don't want to intrude too much. You want to do really gentle, slow strokes. Blend that white out. My canvas is painted white. It's pre-painted, so this white might stand out at first, but it will eventually blend in with the canvas. And you just clean up your edges like that. Super easy, and then you'll have a clean line like this one. So that is how to make a color block painting. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you like your final product as much as mine. And I'll clean those edges up, and we'll post a picture with this, with the clean version. Thank you guys for joining me.